Plants vs Zombies. I don't know if you threw that onto the tracker yet, but I was
A new one? They
it,
did? EA did? Oh,
yeah,
good for
they're
them.
remaking they're remastering, or I don't know which one, re something. They're calling it Replanted, the first one. And it's funny, I go back to like the old school video game days, and I feel like PopCap was like the original, one of the original like mobile game makers. There were like the Zyngas, the PopCaps, and some other ones. And like Plants vs Zombies, I feel like would have benefited from this world of community we're in, but it was before its time, and then EA sunk its teeth into it.
Yeah, like the latter bit is the most important bit before EA suck its teeth in it. Yeah, I don't have anything on Plants vs Zombies yet, so I don't have much comment on that, but that's interesting. I am sure we'll let me make sure that's indeed true before I jump into it, and then we can just start over. But yeah, so Battlefield 6. So a lot has happened. I'm literally rewriting my newsletter this week because of the leak date, and I was ending it, and I was like, who knows when this thing's gonna come out in Q4? And it's like actually it's coming out in early October, and I was like, oh gosh, that is the wrong decision. So now I'm like rewriting my newsletter to kind of add another bit where it's like, please, if you had a magic wand, don't come out in October. So let me kind of start off. So the Battlefield news and like just the insane spike we saw in Mind Game this week was pretty outstanding, like crazy. Let me kind of make sure I have the exact percentage point, so I can be quoted. Yeah. So its release date, it exploded with like a 289% just bump upwards. It literally looks like a straight line up in our tool from its like kind of official reveal. Now that's been rumored, so we had it tracking our tool and it had some momentum because it's been call it a leaky sieve at best across the gaming industry. Everyone knew this game was coming, but like the fact that it's revealed just generated an insane bump. That puts it like on past actually right now past Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Like there's more interest in Battlefield 6 today than there is in Black Ops 7, which is interesting because I didn't, I'll put a pin on that. That's a whole other conversation. So it caused me to go down the rabbit hole of like, let's just dig into the history of Battlefield. Now, our data only goes back to 2019. So the only Battlefield game I have in earnest through its launch is Battlefield 2042, which, I think famously was not the best game. So, or like in terms of hit wise, right? So going into that, I was like, okay, well, what actually happened here? And your kind of mind is blown. Do you realize that in that month of November of 2000, 2000 whatever it was when it would launch, it came out the same month as a Call of Duty. Okay, so Call of Duty Vanguard, again, not a classic Call of Duty that we all kind of harken back and say what a great game, but it was a Call of Duty and it still did fairly well. Maybe not COD standards, but definitely kind of outperformed Battlefield. But then you also Halo Infinite came out that month, and New State Mobile, i.e. PUBG Mobile, like also came out that month. So you had like four shooters coming out in the same month. That's just, of course they all just cannibalized each other on top of each other. And like if you like go to the release windows and you're like, okay, what came out first, what came out last, let me just read the data points. This is in my newsletter. So Call of Duty Vanguard came out first and had a max mind share of 1.398 percent, which is like, oh, solid for a big deal for a lot of games, not for Call of Duty. So substandard for Call of Duty. Halo Infinite came out next with a max mind share of 1.119%. New State Mobile came out third with a max mind share of 1.053, and Battlefield 2042 came out last or fourth with a max mind share of 1%. As you can see, every consecutive game sees diminishing returns before the other. It's like starts off high, ends up in a pretty low spot. And like, well, that's interesting, So that month, the top performing game of that month was Forza 5, Forza Horizon 5, which was the top performing game that month, which launched with a max mind share of 1.820. So, outperformed all the shooters. But like, why is that? I think it's because there's just a crowded month of shooters. But not to be outdone, this is where I'm going to go. Battlefield decided to release the same day as Pokemon. So Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl launched the same day as Battlefield 2042, and that game had a max mind share of 1.8. So it's just like, wow. it just released in a month of a whole bunch of shooters. It released last among all the shooters, and it released the same day as Pokemon. And I know some people at EA are probably like, our audience for Battlefield is not the same as Pokemon. And I think we talked about this like last conversation, but that's not true. Like we don't attention zero sum. Everything competes with everything, irregardless of how you think your world is. It's just not true. And ultimately, I would argue heavily that Pokemon definitely impacted the TAM of Battlefield. So then kind of going, okay, all right, so let's presume that's true. What's happening this year? And this is like really touching on the piece I wrote last week, which is like, the five franchises you don't bet against. So Battlefield is now slated to come out on, I believe I'm just going to make sure I'm on October 10th,
Mhm.
2025. So this puts it 2 weeks after EA Sports FC 26, which is one of the franchises I say don't bet against, launching on September 26th. And then Pokemon ZA is releasing 6 days later on October 16th, literally nestled between two monster franchises. And so, yeah, Battlefield's not releasing the same day as Pokemon this year. So, congratulations to those at EA for avoiding that one. But it's just launching the same week as Pokemon, open world Pokemon, right? So, again, I go, if history is going to repeat itself, which is kind of my hunch, that's like, and their reported goal is 100 million player target, then what are they doing releasing this game and that? And let's just go rattle through the other titles. Just so it's not just Pokemon EAFC. You have Silent Hill F also releasing on October or September 25th, so the day after EA Sports FC. You have Sonic Racing Crossroads releasing on September 25th. You have Ghosts of Yote launching on October 2nd, and you have Arc Raiders launching at the end of the month of October 30th. Right, so you're just releasing in this just crunched window of just a lot of stuff. And yeah, I honestly see like if their goal is indeed to reach 100 million players, they are not. They started on a really good first foot, like coming out with the game after taking a hiatus. Smart job. The next step is, and we're gonna release it in this like thunderstorm of other stuff. Like, oh, I wouldn't do that. Anyways, I'm gonna pause because I'm sure you have questions. But like,
Tons of
I spent
questions.
my morning rewriting this whole analysis because I was like,
Tons of questions. First off, I am extremely excited about Battlefield. I can't stress that enough. I remember back in the day launching Battlefield 1942 before any of the. I mean, I was playing Unreal Tournament, Quake at the time, Quake Arena, right? And like, game was bonkers, man. You can fly. I remember, I forgot what the first map was, but I visually remember everything about it. You can fly, you can boat, you can do all of this stuff, and it just dice made magic out of nothing, and the nostalgia is there in my blood. And as you're talking through all this stuff, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but I also want to argue it, knowing that you're the smarter man in the room
oh
here, right?
no,
But
be
no,
contrarian,
no,
give
don't
me
get me
the
wrong,
bull
please. No,
case.
no, no, that's not right. But like, let's I understand. I'm going to try and play some counterpoints, right? And some are hard to, right? You're releasing between two monster games, right? Yeah, it's shitty timing. It's also the holiday season. You're approaching the holiday season, so when is the right time? And don't answer it yet, right? I just want to throw a bunch of things here. They are launching with that hiatus. They have Vince Impala making the game, right? Apex, Call of Duty, blood in him, right? There's the I feel like if you've been on Reddit in the last 2 weeks, the hype for Battlefield went from Battlefield's gonna suck to don't, or Battlefield's gonna suck, don't screw this up, to oh shit, this is looking like it could be it, right? Like, I
Hmm.
feel like the winds are starting to blow in their favor, but and I would argue the same thing. Pokemon's a different audience, but you're right. It's going to take mind share away. It's going to take eyeballs away, and I don't know. What do you do? Do you wait later to try and get more people? And you're also launching
Oh
at
no, you
$60 price
froze.
point, which is like, I get it. It's a AAA game. You gotta charge for it, right? But how are you gonna hit 100 million people on a paid game? And I think that number's bullshit, right? We can keep saying 100 million, but like, come on.
Yeah, my research says that they've spent $400 million on this game. I don't know if that factor or that metric is true, or if that's just the internet being the internet. But if that's even close to true, let's say let's shave off 100 million and to call it $300 million budget. Like, I don't even know how to comprehend that. Like, that's so much money to put toward a game. Right. So you do have to hit a massive number to justify that investment. But let, let me tackle your question on two prongs, like, because obviously the horse race here is Call of Duty versus Battlefield. Now, to be clear, Battlefield historically has not beaten Call of Duty, at least in the long term. It might win the critical pop, it might win a short term burst, but Call of Duty like just always wins in this like match between the two. It's almost like big brother, little brother. Like Call of Duty's like the big brother, and Battlefield, unfortunately, is like the little brother, right?
But
And you
now
just kind of look.
Microsoft's involved.
I will put a massive pin in that. The second thing is that Call of Duty, it's kind of somewhat protected from the ebbs and flows of the quote unquote quality of Call of Duty, at least against moving in that direction with Warzone. So you have to look at it from a holistic portfolio standpoint. Like even if Black Ops 7 underperforms relative to Black Ops 6, which I would say is probably going to be the case this year, just looking at the tracking. And it might be because it's in the slight future, right? They are taking a risk by moving it beyond modern technology into some like kind of slight futuristic technology. That might be a reason. It might be just general fatigue of Call of Duty. It might be just because Black Ops 6 was so big that it was always going to recede from that high, right? Much like Modern Warfare 3 was a smaller game relative to Modern Warfare 2, which is a monster hit, right? So there's just this natural ebb and flows that happen with Call of Duty. But that all said, they always consistently beat Battlefield. But maybe this is the year. But if this is the year and you have the big bet, my ending of my piece, which is kind of what I was really just digging into right now, is I am a strong believer that they should move their game into December. And you don't have to look back that far in the past. Just look at last year, where Path of Exile 2 Early Access and Marvel Rivals both launched on the same day of December 6th. Both of them were monster hits, and I was going to rattle off their like peak their initial mindshare scores again, just to kind of contextualize it. So Marvel Rivals launched on the December 6th with a max mindshare score of 1.919, which is higher than the last Battlefield titles launch, right? By almost a whole other point, right? So it launched, and it was surprise launched on the same day as Path of Exile 2, which launched with a mindshare score of 2.875. So let me kind of put it in layman's terms. That day, those two games were able to garner and gobble up 5% of the entire gaming market by launching two games on the same day. That is wild. To me, what that tells me is there is appetite for new games in December in a post Call of Duty world, which is why I think people stay away from it, because Call of Duty now basically owns November along with Fortnite in their update. But like, I think December is a wide open place, and somebody should just move into that December slot. And so, why not Battlefield 6? Now that they've leaked or released the date, I don't know if they can, but that would be my prescription to to the solution, right? It'd be like, yeah, what about December, guys? Why don't you release in December? Maximize the attention. If your goal is indeed this lofty 100 million player number, I think you have more of a chance of hitting that number in December release than I do think releasing your game in an insanely competitive October, September field. Or I just think there's just so much going on that it's going to be very challenging for them to stick out, even if it's a plus banger game, because so much of that quote unquote up for grabs market share is going to go toward a bunch of other stuff just by existing, right?
I'd assume there's no chance that come December they're like, hey, we're gonna put it on PSN Plus and Xbox Game Pass, right? It'd just kind of be a big middle finger telling you what purchased early, right? But the only thing I could think of is that maybe they want to stress test what they can prior to the holidays and then just say, go at it.
Yeah, that might be. I think if it's just like using Madden as a proxy, like EA will put it on the EA subscription service, which then is grandfathered into at least
Right.
Xbox Game Pass. Like
Hmm.
that'll happen like let's say 9 months after its release. So they are going to window its release. And I don't know if we know yet. I don't know, you tell me. Is there going to be a free to play version of this game that is meant to be like the battle royale live service element of Battlefield outside the campaign? Because I know that it's a big deal with this game. It actually has a campaign, which has got the internet excited. Part of what Battlefield 2042 didn't have was a campaign, so the internet got mad that it didn't have its 10-hour campaign that it has to have, right?
It boggles my mind, that argument. I always get so confused about the people that want to campaign in Battlefield. Like, and I get it, you're charging $60, right? You need something, but like, it's a multiplayer game. And what was it? One, I think, did the Heroes or Fog of War type of thing where it kind of jumped down, which was cool, but like, if you're gonna spend all this time building a game, build the coolest fucking multiplayer game you can. Don't put a campaign in there. And don't get me wrong, like I play Call of Duty campaigns. They are fantastic.
No.
They do so many cool features in there. Um, but to the battle royale point, the Inside Gaming leaked the battle royale map, or someone linked it. I saw it through them. But there's
Yeah.
been no official announcement, and this is again another trend that people chase, which I feel like battle royale, like I guess it makes sense in Battlefield because you already got big maps, but like it's not meant for that. Like that's not the mode. It's the rush, the stuff like that they have.
Yeah, I know. I mean, well, they were like the original battle royale game, and then they got kind of leapfrogged by a history of just dating back to DayZ, H1Z1, PUBG, Fortnite, kind of just continually
Hmm.
leapfrogging each other, and as a kind of battle royale became the kind of tour de jour, as it were, right, of the kind of shooter genre.
Hmm.
So they kind of got pushed aside for the trends, but like, let's go through the bull case because I am a slightly more bullish too. Like, I'm not saying it's doomed. I'm saying it's going to be challenged to kind of maximize the amount of interest it can get because you know as a kind of going to your audience, like what I would say is that the market on a given week has 20% of interest attention share up for grabs. There's only 20%, right? So how is that 20% going to be divvied up is the question, right? Because everybody else is going to play what's already out there, right? So looking at that window, well, that's why I'm so concerned is like there's so much other new stuff happening that even if a game gets half a point or two-thirds of a point or a point in the case of like Oceote, it's not going to do terrible. Like all that is pulling away from the TAM that's ultimately going to be Battlefield because they need to hit a pretty large number to kind of to quote unquote win out, right? Not the quote unquote
Hmm.
100 million player number. Um, that said, given that kind of that kind of element, I would say like the Bulls case on this is like it's been a while. I also see like huge spikes in games that take a break. I mean, I wrote about this already, but like WWE took a break, came back with
Hmm.
double the max mind share that its predecessor had, and then subsequent years kind of reverted back to the mean of like where it should be. But there was one year where it popped off like crazy because they took a break, right? So I think games that take a break, much like what you're seeing with the Redditors and Battlefield 6, it's like, oh, this is going to be magical. They haven't put out a game in a while. So there's like an inherent hype built by games and key franchises not coming out with annualized releases by just taking a break, right? So I think that's a huge piece of it that's going to help kind of push it to being a top title of October. If not the top title, I think it's a bit early, too early to say, but like a top title, I still wouldn't bet against Pokemon. Just the history of Pokemon titles, it's just their floor is 15 million copies sold, so that's a pretty high floor. And
Do
their
you have your
ceiling
copy
is
pre-ordered yet?
I do not. I am not a Pokemon player. I- but I
Okay, you
respect it.
should.
Oh, fair enough. We'll see. I respect the game. That's the franchise that they built, the brand value that Pikachu and his assortment of characters have. The fact that my daughter at Comic Con last week picked out an EV plushie and now is just walking around everywhere with it. It's like something about Pokemon that just pulls people in. And then on the other side, you have the nostalgia of Pokemon, where it's like, oh, I loved Pokemon as a kid, and now I glom on to some of the stuff they put out there, right? And yeah, it's just like a impenetrable franchise. If not for Mario, I honestly think that Pikachu would be the Mickey Mouse of the gaming industry. If not for Mario, like
Definitely.
Mario is
There's still time for
Mario's
that to happen too.
Mario holds the crown. He his movie made like an insane amount of money. It's like anything Mario does that's new, people just like chase after it. It's like brand identity of one to one to everyone who reports to be a gamer and they know who
No,
Mario
it's just
is.
because the average age of a gamer is 30 to 40, so we resonate with Mario. Once the 10 to 20-year-olds right now grow a little older who've grown up with more Pokemon than Mario, I think that sentiment starts to turn. I think Gen Z, Gen A, if you look at who their top mascot is, I'd sooner say it's going to be Pikachu than Mario.
Maybe that's an interesting point. I don't know. The movie kind of just shifts that I kind of like the movie made like $1.5 billion, and no Pokemon movie has made anything close to that in the box office. I don't know if I froze, but yeah, it's like to me
No, you're good.
it's like oh yeah, it it transcends everything. Look at the theme parks they put on Universal. Like, just have you gone to
Yeah.
the theme parks? It's insane. Like, I've
Nope, we
gone
have it booked for
twice.
November. Very excited.
So my lived experience with the Super Mario World at Universal Studios in California is that even with your early ticket access, like I think everybody with early ticket access just sprints to the back of the park to go to Mario World to get in the line for the one ride there. It's so tiny, it's so claustrophobic in there, and you're like this with people just kind of in the sea trying to get on the Mario Kart ride, which is fine. It's not like blow your doors off amazing. It's like meh, okay, that was cool. And the amount of merchandise they sell at that park, I think it's like
Hmm.
literally the one thing that it has on Disneyland is the fact they have a Mario Land, but everything else is like inconsequential. It's like, oh, you can buy all the and Nintendo merch here. It's like, oh, that's amazing. So I don't know. I go back to my point. I think Mario is in a league of its own. Not to say that Pokemon's not, but like if you're to like rank, it's like, oh, poor Nintendo. They only have like three iconic, like 100% name recognition franchises in their Rolodex of stuff that doesn't matter, like Zelda, Mario, and Pokemon, which is like a 50-50 proposition with the Pokemon company. But like, okay, yeah, they just own these three things. And so my thing with Pokemon is like I think when you go outside of North America and Europe and you go to Asia, that's when Pokemon reigns supreme. Like I think for Asia, when I've gone there, it's Hello Kitty and Pokemon. That's just like boom boom, right? That's where you see just Pikachu's everywhere, and you're like, oh, this is a different over here, right? Whereas America, yeah, you see Pikachu, but you also see Mario and everything else. So I just think that it might be just a Western bias on my end, and it might be Pikachu is the Mickey Mouse of Asia.
We'll see in the next few years here. But let's talk about Comic Con. I'm really curious on kind of top two or three highlights you have from there.
Coming out of San Diego Comic Con, what did I kind of glom away? Let me kind of break that down. I thought I've gone to Comic Con for over a decade now, sans a couple of years for life reasons. So I've been there all the time. I think it's transitioning out of being like this place that Hollywood just floods with like studio content and turning more back into kind of being a comic con, if that makes sense, as opposed to entertainment con or pop culture con. So my big thing going out of it is one, oh my, anime is definitely kind of creeping in there. So like anime used to be kind of pushed to the side of the major like exhibit hall. Now it's like in the center, like Crunchyroll has a booth like literally in the center of Comic Con, as does Namco Bandai, as does like Toei Animation, like all these big anime brands all just front and center, right? So that's like one. Not that like Anime Expo doesn't happen, but it's interesting how anime culture is kind of infiltrating Comic Con, right? So that would be like my main takeaway one, where it used to be just like TV networks and studios there, but they're all gone. They're not there anymore. So in place comes anime. That's like my main takeaway one. Takeaway two, and I always feel this is like I don't understand why gaming doesn't have more of a presence there. Like I don't know why they don't lean in more. I kind of suspect it's like awkwardly placed on the calendar where it's too close to the Gamescom for them to kind of move their entire marketing endeavor to also do Comic Con. But I always think it's such a open it's a open field for someone to kind of take it or like do stuff there. But this year did have a massive Pokemon booth. My kids loved it. There was a big Pokemon ball. You can experience Pokemon things. So like Pokemon Company was there. So that was cool. And so maybe it is creeping in, maybe it's not. But I do think like there's a space for gaming to take more of a like a presence or a role at Comic Con. Like Sony used to do something where they did the gaming. They had like a gaming panel where they would reveal stuff about like the upcoming Spider-Man and all this stuff from Insomniac Games. Kind of feel like that would do well there if they end up doing that again. But like, I don't know what's happening with the next Spider-Man game. Like that one's as a Spider-Man super fan, I just sit back and I'm like, what is happening? Like, I know Spider-Man 2 underperformed, but like, how bad? Because like all the leaks happen and then like cancel all this DLC.
Yeah, is it Venom coming?
Maybe yeah, why has there not been an announced Venom game yet? Like, because that was reported like crazy that they were making a Venom game, but maybe it's just not ready or they're not going to do it. And what about Wolverine? It's been 5 years since they teased the Wolverine game. Like, what's going on with the Wolverine game? So, a lot of questions
Okay.
with the that like franchise that makes me sad because I thought Spider-Man 2 was a good game, and I think the only thing that really hindered its ceiling was the fact that it was only on the place the new console generation, which is back to Battlefield. Like my understanding, and you keep me honest, man, not to bring back Battlefield, but isn't it current gen console only? game
It
only.
is going to be current gen only, but you're saying that's a negative, right? I think,
It could be a positive because it could make the graphics amazing. They're not trying to make it backwards
yeah, right.
compatible, so it could be amazing. But to your point, do people care about graphics?
I
Graphic
don't think it's even
Interesting.
graphics, though, right? It could be compatibility. It could be like, think about supporting how many versions of a game, right? Resources that takes, right? Like, imagine having to port something to the Xbox One or the PS4 now, right? Like,
Oh,
come on, man, put those teams on something else and focusing on something else. I think, I mean, how long ago was last gen, right? It was, I don't know. I can't do math and I don't know it off the top of my head here, right?
that's
But we're
fair.
talking like 5 years ago at this point, right? Like, rip the band aid. Let's move on.
Do you think there's going to be another? So Microsoft's earnings call was last year, and they saw Xbox sales declines, while also seeing a massive upswing in like selling software. Duh, that makes a lot of sense. Where do you think the next gen will be? Like, do you think Xbox releases a next gen console, or you think they're gonna go the handheld route and just partner with manufacturers and say, yeah, use our OS, build your own machine. We're out of making devices.
I like to believe that we are going. I think like to think we're already past the point of being able to not release the next Xbox. I have to imagine it's far along in production to the point where like it's probably ready. Like I think they already announced that they're using is it AMD for the chip? Like so, it's been announced. I think they'll be in the hardware business for a while. I don't see hardware going away. I think they'll find ways to support more channels, right? I think they'll have like the Google Home types of thing. Not Google Home. I'm thinking like the Alexa sticks where you can just kind of
Yeah,
plug them in. I know it's already built into Samsung TVs. I think they're going to make accessibility to gaming easier, but I do think they're going to continue to have a platform. I also think that platform will start to interact more seamlessly with your PC, right? I think there was rumors before that it's probably going to change that Steam. They're looking for like Steam integration with the Ally, and I was like, you know what?
uh,
If they can partner with Steam and really kind of build a console that supports both seamlessly, like it kind of seems like a no brainer to me.
why would Xbox partner with like or so? Let me make sure I understand your comment correctly. Why would why would Steam? Why would Valve partner with Microsoft on anything? I'm sure they've Microsoft's tried to buy Valve like 100 times in the history of Valve.
I think it comes again. I think it comes down to accessibility. How easy can you make it for a person to launch a game? How much hardware can you put it on? I mean, if you have a Steam Deck, that's great. It runs your Steam stuff great. But what happens if I have an the
Yeah,
ally,
yeah, I
ally,
get
right?
it.
Or my
Yeah.
desktop, right? Like if you can build this, if you can make a more seamless relationship, how things run. Imagine having Steam client automatically built into Windows where it launches. I don't know. I see Windows is a walled garden, same as iOS, same as Android, right? But now I think Microsoft's, I'm speculating that it's very wrong, right? But I think they've seen how they can partner with Android. And instead of making their own Android hardware, you can release the Microsoft Office suite of tools on Android. So they know they have their group of users that are on Windows. If they can start putting more things to making PC games easier for people to launch to play as well. Because you have to remember, Mac is also eating into the market as well, right? How do you combat people who are playing on Mac as well, right? I think
It's interesting.
I
Interesting.
don't know. I'm kind of
I
bullshitting
think
as I
like
go, but I'm trying to create this
no,
argument of
no. I just find it to be curious, to be honest, because I see like Valve. We talked about this last week, but like Valve to me is doing the exact play where they're going to be a walled garden on handheld devices. That's what they're trying to do. Like by releasing the Steam OS across multiple handhelds, where they're just like make build it on our software. Like
Mhm.
they're trying to be the storefront of those devices. So like I think that's their play, but you know I do think if you look at the earnings for Microsoft and you look at like even reported like where they like the top like I don't want to misquote, but like a significant portion of PlayStation's top games sold last quarter were Microsoft titles. So they are clearly
Yeah.
moved into being a publisher now. And Microsoft sells games on Steam, so it's not like they don't have a relationship. Their games are on Steam. You could buy them on Steam as you can anywhere else. Like and I obviously I think Microsoft's end goal would be like, and this is why I think if they are going to release an Xbox, it's going to be the last gen because ultimately I just think they what they really want is for Game Pass to be available on every device on every store. They don't really care if they own the store level. They just want Game Pass to be there to kind of further drive the subscription adoption, right? So they want Game Pass to be on, a Valve
Yeah.
powered machine. They want Game Pass to be on PlayStation. Like, will that happen? Probably not. But that would be where Microsoft would like to go, right? Is be the kind of subscription service across everything, or at least having the ability to have that there. And that, to me, that's probably more the prerogative that, and becoming a publisher than making hardware. So I do think like this is probably the last generation of Microsoft built hardware until they just license it out to everyone else, because they gotta save some money for their AI, because they reportedly that's the reason why they keep
Isn't
laying
AI
off
saving all
people.
the money?
Yeah, that's
Huh.
what's been reported by the Seattle Times. It was like AI is the reason why they laid off those 9,000 people, and why I thought I saw another cut of another thousand coming down the pipeline. They're going to lay off another thousand people before the end of the year because not this latter one not being because AI, but they are committing an insane amount of billions of dollars to AI infrastructure. That money's got to come from somewhere, even though they have
Backing up
projects.
a step, yeah, I did a podcast a while ago with Sean Layden. He was at PlayStation during the PS4, and he made a comment that he was comparing it to VHS players, I think, at the time, and how you had Sony versus, I forgot who made VHS at the time. Maybe it was RCA, maybe it was someone else at the time, and they were going for the format war. And you fight and you make these proprietary formats, and then you really only start to see growth on these platforms when other brands start to build hardware. So when you look at a DVD player, it's not just made by Sony. You have Sony, you have Panasonic, you have Toshiba, you have whoever,
LG,
right? And then all of a
yeah,
sudden it's accepted and everybody has it, right? It becomes cheaper, it becomes more affordable because there's competition. And if you look at the console market the same way, at this point we've probably maxed out a lot of things when it comes to gaming, right? We've probably, and I'm not even going to start to name things because it sounds stupid, but what we haven't maxed out is how or where people could play. So if you could start to support more types of hardware that maybe people can't afford a gaming device today, but if it's built into my TV or if it's something else, then all of a sudden that market of gamers goes from 1 to 100, because it's not just you can only buy a PlayStation from Sony. You can buy any supporting hardware that supports PlayStation, and then it becomes cheaper for people to get in. The problem you lose there is then you have kind of a broken ecosystem like Android, where you have some really good quality Android phones, and you also have some really shit quality Android phones, but it's not on Android, it's onto the hardware maker, and people don't associate
understand.
that.
Yeah, so then you have to do it like so. What you're outlining here is just the entire mobile market. Like, why did mobile take off the way it did? Why is it such a large, or the largest part of gaming, and the biggest games in the world are also on mobile? It's because everyone has one in their pocket, right? Like, it's not, and even though it's as a machine, like, it's way more expensive than a console. But what the phone also does? Everything else I ever need to do. Like, it's my
Yeah.
camera, it's my email machine, it's my social networking platform, it's like everything all in one device, right? And it's also games. And the problem with mobile becomes a discovery issue, less so because there's so much stuff there, right? And you're doing so many other things on your mobile phone. How do you garner that attention share among everything else a person could do on their phone? But yeah, I think you're not wrong. And like, I'm curious where Sony falls on this, right? I think they like making hardware because they make money on hardware, and they use software as the way to drive people to buy their hardware devices. So I don't know if Sony would ever change their stripes on that one, and they've created a IP moat. But even them, they're starting to diversify and put their games, at least windowed wise, on other devices, and sometimes day and one. And we'll see how that like shapes out over the next 5 years. If this is like a one-off trend with Helldivers 2, right, where it's on PC and PlayStation, or is this the kind of future of where PlayStation is going? Because if Spider-Man 2 underperforms at its launch, if Ghost Yote is tracking to do at least slightly behind Ghost of Tsushima, not do better. At the very minimum, I don't think it's gonna do better. It could do
Hmm.
on par. Or Death Stranding 2, which I would argue underperformed on PlayStation. At what point do they just say, why are we only releasing it on our hardware? Maybe we need to think about multi distribution channels at launch to maximize our marketing efforts, which is what they're doing. They're marketing their game as opposed to singling out that you have to have a PlayStation. The exception to all this rule is obviously Nintendo, but we've talked about this before. I just think they're Apple. They're just in their own world, and they just do what they do, right? They're not changing. They don't need to change. They'll just kind of hum along as they do, and people continue to buy their devices, and they will sell tens of millions of copies of what they have. But they're like the Apple in this ecosystem for sure.
If you're, I don't know if you're going to Gamescom, but let's pretend you're going to Gamescom and you had a choice to bring a Steam Deck, your Switch 2, or the ROG Ally, which you don't have yet because it's not out. Which would you consider bringing?
Oh, I'm not going to Gamescom. I'm going to London in September for that because that's the reason why I'm not going to Gamescom. And I can't do 2 European trips in 2 weeks. That's just like with a 2 week in the window and all that. So like I to answer the question, I was bringing my Steam Deck. Now, why do I bring my Steam Deck? Because it has all my Steam games on there. And but for a family trip I'm going to do very soon for our summer family vacay, I'll probably bring both my Switch 2 and my Steam Deck because my kids will want to play Mario Kart World and now Donkey Kong Bonanza. So I will bring both, right? I'm a privileged person, but I think the majority of people's answer is going to be the Switch. There's always been the Switch, right? So that's been their advantage forever. Like I'm a hardcore gamer. That's why I have a Steam Deck, and I can put that in my backpack and bring it with me as I go with a cord. I have like a 15-foot cord because those things battery life is atrocious. So I
Yeah.
literally have like a 15-foot cord, find the place, outlet, and just plug it in, like sit on a chair and play. So I've designed my lifestyle around the fact that I have a Steam Deck and its cord is so small, and so I've adjusted my life accordingly. But as my kids, yeah, they're gonna want the Nintendo, man. And that's but what I back in the day, people used to like literally pack their consoles in their suitcases and bring them with me. I
Oh
think
yeah.
that world's is gone, right? Like, why would you do that when you have quality handhelds that you can port into your TV? By the way, you just plug it in the TV and run on your TV if that's what you want to do. So I think that world has shifted, right? And Switch Two comes with
Yeah,
or
I got a foldable phone, right? And going back to your productivity, right? Like, it's a lot of money, but you know what? Like, I do a lot of work on this. Like, it basically acts as a computer. Like, I could use CapCut on this. I could do anything I want on this, right? And like, it is like when I'm gonna go spend $600 on the next Xbox or PlayStation, I'm just like, oh, what am I gonna do here? But when it comes to like, oh, the new foldable phone, it's gonna be 1,500 to 2,000 bucks. I'm just like, I'm on the phone for like so many hours a day. It's like, why would I want to cheap out on the device I'm using all the time?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. I totally get it. And just to like, maybe we can end the conversation here. I don't know if you saw, but the another Nintendo Direct
Yeah.
happened, and a bunch of third-party titles are announced or kind of confirmed or whatever that might be, right? And it was a partner direct. It wasn't anything specific to them, but I think like something I would love your initial take on. I don't have no data. I have no data to back it up yet, but I love your take. Like to me, Nintendo is very good about marketing, obviously marketing to the customer, and they've structured it in such an interesting way where the directs are a signal to their core user base, and they how they sparse them out, how they pace them out between their core titles and partner titles is such an interesting strategy that I've just started diving into and peeling back a bit because it's clearly something that's working for them. So I want to kind of do more to understand like what it is that they're doing, how like because like to me it's always been quirky. Like I wake up in the morning PST and I turn around and there's a Nintendo Direct that got uploaded like 5 a.m. and I'm like, oh well, guess I gotta watch this thing. And you know it's a guy, Japanese guy talking English subtitles or English dub over it. It's just like a weird experience, and yeah, I think there's just wildly successful like marketing beats. But love your take. Like, what do you think of the Nintendo Directs in general? And then was there anything on the Nintendo Direct today that like sparked your interest, or are they or no?
We should do it. We should find a way to do a little like just say a game what we're excited about because that can even just make a quick like
Out,
B roll of what's cool. But
yeah.
but Nintendo is such a weird company. Like, I get people's love for Nintendo, and they make some unforgettable franchises, and they've done some crazy stuff. I mean, the N64 controller is my favorite. Then you have GameCube. Then you have all this other like, but like, and I'll get in trouble for saying this. They're kind of a shit company, man. Like, their Joy Cons always break. They don't really care about that. They're very like, they know their audience and they know what they can get away with, and I feel like they know what they can get away with, and it's kind of a, and it's not nice to say, but like Pokemon shouldn't be suing Pal World, man. Pal World, Pal, and maybe they should, don't get me wrong, but Pal World expanded on this idea that Pokemon should have done it 10 years ago, but they're just like Madden. They're just like fuck it, people are gonna buy it. We're just gonna do the same thing again. We'll update the graphics. I remember when the last, and that's not the last, but the Pokemon came out, and like Game Freak didn't optimize it at all, and it showed the draw distance was like this far, and
Yeah,
just like
I agree with
people
that.
still ate it up, and they're just like, well, people are gonna do it. Um, that's my take on Nintendo. They make great
Um,
franchises, though.
Oh my gosh. Well, I will jump in and say like the thing that kind of struck me was like, oh, another Octopath. I'm not a big fan of that franchise. I think I famously really hated the original Octopath Traveler when I was at Twitch, and I recall going on a whole tirade about like what I don't like about that game. Most of my criticism, at least the first one I ever played, the second one was that it's narratively disjointed. If you ever played it, it's like doesn't really. It feels like you're working through like five distinct stories or however many it was instead of one actual cohesive story. That all said, like seeing that, I was like, oh, another Octopath. That's interesting. And also, EAFC going on the Switch day one. I think that's interesting. I don't know if they've been doing this forever, but that's interesting. It just tells me that Nintendo's bet on beefing up their hardware is probably paying off, and maybe you'll see more releases day one on the Switch as opposed to waiting the 3 to 6 month period before it appears on the Switch. Now, I suspect that EA's probably done this. I don't know off the top of my head, but like I think that's interesting, and I'm curious if you'll see more games just be on the Switch day one. Apex going on the Switch too as well. So it's like maybe the hardware bet by Nintendo is going to pay off with more like quote unquote core games going on the Switch too on day one, and so that'd be an interesting trend to watch. But yeah,
I'm
um,
curious if Apex is still relevant, but
good
I don't think
question.
you're gonna see more. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see more Switch 2 games day one, but I think strategic ones that like again EAFC makes sense because of Ultimate Team, right? I think the second one you named was Apex has been around for a while now, so it's
Yeah,
easy
yeah.
enough to
As a
optimize it
port,
on
yeah, yeah.
multiple platforms, right? I think call them forever games, even though FIFA comes out every year, right? I think EA understands we're gonna we can tap into this Chinese market a lot easier if we're on Switch too. They play soccer too. They watch football,
Eh,
whatever you want to call it,
yeah,
right?
yeah, for
Football,
sure,
right? Like
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that's a strategic there. I'm again. We talked about this in the beginning, and if I'm going to cut it out, I'll say it again. I love that they're bringing Plants vs Zombies back. After college, me and my neighbor, we would get drunk and we would play Plants vs Zombies on the
Ah,
360 and hand the controller
nice.
back and forth. And now it has couch co-op, which is great. And I think it's a perfect
Oh.
Switch game.
But yeah, you asked, so maybe you asked what my game I'm looking forward to. So I don't have a lot of time to play games, but I do play games, right? I currently almost complete with my experience with Claire Obscure. Just kind of doing third act stuff. But like the game this fall that I'm like, my eyes on this is nothing I've talked about. It is Final Fantasy Tactics, the remastered. Like I'm like there for it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. Like I had so much fun playing the Mario RPG remake, which is my favorite game of all time when that came out. And this reminds me a lot of the interest I had. It was like, oh, I can't wait to revisit this game on current gen graphics or play the original as it was intended. I love that they're dual releasing it. Like if you want to play the game from back when as it was, just updated so it's playable, great, you have that path. Or you can play kind of our slightly tweaked version, which for Square Enix, you never know. It could be an entirely new third act that just brings Sephiroth through a time machine. You're like, what's going on right now? But that's the fun with Square Enix. You never know how they're going to take the game. So that's the game this fall that I'm personally most interested in. Outside of all the noise of everything else happening, and my kids are for sure going to be interested in Pokemon ZA. I'll be the one they're going to want to garner glom onto, and that would probably round out my gaming year, as it were. Because I honestly, personally, I might play Ghost of Yote. Like I do enjoy Ghost of Tsushima. I just want to kind of still cautious about that game, and I gotta wait and see. That'd be my 2 cents. But you never know.
So
Like
you're
last
telling
year,
me I'm not going to see you on Battlefield?
no, I am not a multiplayer shooter guy anymore. I used to be. I just don't have the time to get good. I don't have my 10,000 hours to grind out my skill tree, and so I just opt out. I'm like, I can't play this game. I will not enjoy myself. I'm too competitive. I don't like losing. I don't like getting good. I don't have the time for it. So I'm just gonna hard pass and watch it on Twitch and consume it in other ways, right? I'll watch some people play Battlefield for sure. I'll just want to see how
There
the
we
vehicle.
go.
I'm most interested in the vehicles. I'm like, oh, they're gonna what's the vehicles gonna look like in modern like hardware? Like that's to me that's the core of Battlefield. Like your differentiation is vehicles. Like
I know.
give me
And there's no
vehicles.
naval battles in the beginning. I don't know if that was confirmed, but that's heavily speculated. That's going to be DLC down the line.
Yeah, just give the vehicles, man. That's what the people want. A giant map with a bunch of people shooting in all sorts of directions and the vehicles, right? And if they want to bring back Star Wars, I'm there for that. I would actually play that game. I love the old school Battlefield Star Wars game. So
Battlefronts.
yeah, Battlefront. Thank you. I
Uh,
forgot they changed the name slightly to give it its own brand. Battlefronts. I love Star Wars
yeah.
Battlefronts. They're great. They're a lot of fun. Bring that back.
It's
Give me
the
that
same
game.
DNA. It's a rose by another name is still a rose.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right,
Yeah.
let us know where we can find mind game data.
Um, yeah, mindgamedata.com is our company and our website. We also have multiple newsletters. Mine is called Patch Notes. I am Colin Neese. You can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I post weekly my weekly edition of Patch Notes, and specifically this week, I will be diving into Battlefield, Call of Duty, and history of those two franchises going after each other, and my recommendations on what Battlefield should do this year. Now that the news has leaked on the release date, so I might disagree with them. So that's
I'm
where
gonna
you
get a
can
Team
find me.
Battlefield shirt for next time.
Oh, do it,
Anyone from
man,
EA
do
is
it,
listening.
and like coming out, I mean, like I think going into the fall, it's just gonna be such a fun horse race. Oh, and we didn't even talk about Wu Chang. I was gonna mention that. We talked about it. I know there was a lot of chatter that this was a wildly successful game. It did maybe 20% of what Blacksmith did, so I think there's just a lot of hype on this, like these Chinese inspired games, like or Chinese made games. And to me, like, and sorry, we could talk about this next week, and maybe that's what we do. But like
Are they even
my
related, the games? And that's naive of me. I don't know, but I saw it come out. I don't know if they're
Wu
related.
Chang Feathers, it was a bad game, right? So Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, bad game, just torched on Steam, incomplete, da
Right.
da da da. The most interesting thing, and we can cut this out. Let's talk about it next week. Is like to me, it's the trend out of China is not like they're gonna make amazing A plus plus Game of the Year award nominee games like Black Myth Wukong every time. It's the question I have on all games that are kind of developed with a Chinese aesthetic and or are targeted at China and or made in China directly is the cost structure of those games. Are they making them cheaper and thus they hit ROI much quicker so they don't need as many players? That is the interesting question to me with China's Chinese games. And if they do that and they drive down the cost like they have done across everything else, like this is China drives down the like the making cost of everything from steel
Definitely.
to chips to they're not good at chips, but like steel to everything, right? Like to um to EV cars, right? If they do that for game, that's going to have a profound impact on the gaming industry. That is an interesting one, right? Because I don't know how Western developers compete with just a flood of cheap is the wrong way to put it. It's not cheap. It's just more cost structured games that are of quality, right? Like, and some are good, some are not good, but they just do more, right?
Why,
More
unfortunately,
swings at the bat, right?
that's
That's
why
all
we
it
are
is.
where we are today. It's cheaper to make games. More people can make games, and even now China's outsourcing to other third world countries. Right? They're looking at how do we make games for cheaper now, and
Or
it's
they just go to North America, hire a small team of like 8 people, have them make Marvel Rivals, or at least design the marketing aesthetics of it, and then can them immediately once the game is out and move it all back to China.
hey, we did a podcast with those guys though. Great guys. Check out Thad Sasser.
Oh, did you? Oh my gosh, I have to
Oh, we
listen
did
to
it. Yeah,
that.
I loved that. He's a great guy. We did it one before. I don't know if we did an official one afterwards, but we stay in touch quite a bit.
That's
Um,
basically what happened, right? They're like, come help us westernize, like bring that Western eye to it, and probably partnership with like. There's a whole lot of story with that. We can again another podcast. Like I know
yeah,
some.
I
You
think there
probably know
was
more than I do.
rockiness there. There's
Well,
a
you
different work ethic which I don't understand about China, and I think it's something that I think don't think we understand as a culture here in the East is like, or where we are, right? Is like they work a lot, like their whole lives. I forgot what he said. It was like 10-hour days, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Like it's nuts. They sometimes sleep in the office.
with Marvel Snap again, give it and get to it. Yeah, it's a second dinner, but like ultimately published at the time by another Chinese company. It's so interesting. They they funded direct competitors to Blizzard titles, and
Yeah,
while they're definitely taking away market share from Blizzard, if not outright beating them. Like, so, like I know the Snap people would argue that they beat Hearthstone in the U.S. Right? They just dominate Hearthstone in the U.S. I don't know if that's true or not true, but that's kind of what I've heard. And so I don't know. It's interesting. There's a lot of meat on that bone. So maybe that's another podcast, and I'll come a little more prepared with research on it because I do find it to be fascinating what's happening with China, how that relates to Western developers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyways, on that note, man,
I'm with Colin Neese. I am Greg Posner. I am the host of Player Driven. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, hit us up. Let us know. We want to talk games. I'll have information for Colin. You can check out Mind Game Data. I'll link to it. Colin, thanks again, man. I'll talk to you in a week or two.
yeah, thanks, man. I love doing this. It was a lot of fun. Appreciate it, man.
Cool.